Okay, welcome to another video. So slight change of plan today. So we're going to continue with our look of the Ubuntu 22.04 releases. However, you might have seen a poll that I did in my YouTube community tab where we had a few options that you could choose from, which were Budgie, MATE and Ubuntu. Budgie won out and MATE became second, and it appeared that we didn't get a whole lot of love for Ubuntu. However, when I went to set up to use Budgie today, it was having some weird issues with my capture card. I've posted about it on Twitter if you want to see what's going on. So we're going to skip that one for now and go straight into it with Ubuntu MATE 22.04. So we'll read a little bit from the release notes and then we'll jump straight into it and get this installed. So first up in what's changed, we have the MATE desktop version 1.26.1. So this benefits from significant effort in fixing bugs in the MATE desktop and optimizing performance and plugging memory leaks. So I've always found MATE to be quite good on memory, so we'll see how it does now with these newer versions and the plugging of the memory leaks. And then we've got some updates to the Yaru theming, which I think looks really good on the MATE desktop that I've seen in previous versions. However, in the newer version, we bring full MATE compatibility to upstream Yaru, including all of the accent color varieties, and all reported bugs in the Yaru implementation for MATE have also been fixed. And here we can see all of the different color variations there, looking very nice. So now 22.04 ships with all of the Yaru themes, including their own Chelsea Cucumber, and the legacy ambient and radiant themes are no longer installed by default. And then for some added cherries on top, they've added the dark and light panels and panel icons to Yaru for MATE Desktop and Unity, which we can see here. They've added patches to the Appearance Control Center that applies theme changes to Plank, the dock, Plume, the text editor, and correctly toggles the color scheme preference for GNOME 42. So I think that will mean now when we switch over to a dark or a light theme, it should change everything on your desktop. I remember in the previous video that we did, it got a little bit stuck on the dock, which is of course Plank. So hopefully now it all sort of changes in unison with just one click of changing the theme. We then have some AI generated wallpapers, which I did see on Twitter a little while ago, and I did very much like them. There's a few here and we'll check them out once we are at the desktop. So my favorite thing about MATE is the MATE tweak. So now switching with layouts with MATE tweak is the most celebrated feature, and we've improved the reliability of desktop layout switching, and restoring custom layouts is now 100% accurate. So here's the layouts here, and as you can see there is one missing because they have removed the MATE netbook from the default installation of Ubuntu MATE. I'm not too worried about that, it wasn't one that I tended to use too much. Now MATE tweak has refreshed its support for third-party compositors. So Compton has been dropped as it's no longer actively maintained, and comprehensive support for Pickham has been added, with three compositor options, which are Xrender, GLX and Hybrid, and all three of these can be selected via the MATE tweak tool. And then we have the MATE HUD, which is something I really do like seeing on Ubuntu MATE, as I was a heavy user of the HUD back in the old Unity days and just hitting the Alt key to go through the commands. However, in the newest version, Rofi, the tool that's made to use MATE HUD to visualize menu searches, has a new theme system. So the MATE HUD has been updated to support this new theme engine and comes with two MATE specific themes, which are the MATE HUD, and then we have some MATE HUD rounded, which are these little rounded bad boy corners right there. So for the windows and shadows, they updated Metacity and the Marco Mate window manager themes in Yaru to make sure that they match the GNOME client-side decoration handy windows for a consistent look and feel across all window types. And then for the MATE Welcome and Boutique, the software boutique has been restocked with software for 22.04. And they've actually added the ESR deb of Firefox to the browser ballot. So if you didn't want to use the snap all the time, you could simply switch over to the extended support release of Firefox straight from their browser ballot here with all of the other options that they had previously. And we'll check out how that works once we are fully installed. Now we have 41% less fat. So they've done a good job of just sort of reducing the file size of the ISO. So it was 4.1 GB and it is now 2.7. Now even with that reduction in size, they've still added a few new applications to the default install, which are GNOME Clocks, Maps and Weather. And now for packages, they support pretty much every format you could want. So we have Snap, App Image and Flatpak. So Flatpak is installed by default. However, the FlatHub repository is not enabled by default. But you can very easily just copy this over or go onto the quick start of FlatHub and do the same thing there. And then of course we've got some newer updated packages for Firefox, Celluloid, Evolution and LibreOffice. Now there's a few things that we skipped over on the release notes there, so if you'd want to read it yourself, I'll leave a link to this in the description below. With that out of the way, let's reboot and get this installed. Right, so we've just booted into the ISO, and as always we will be installing this natively, but if you do like to skip the installation parts of the videos, there'll be timestamps down below which will take you straight to the installed desktop. First up, let's go ahead and install Ubuntu MATE. Keyboard layout is of course English UK, and then we can go to the next step. So we're going to go for the full fat normal installation, and we're going to install third-party software and go to the next step. And now for installation type, we can see our failed sort of Ubuntu Budgie run. So we're just going to do a straight erase disk and install Ubuntu MATE, and then replace those two partitions with our new ones. So I'll give us two partitions, one for our ESP and then the rest all assigned to our root partition, with ext4 being your default file system. London is close enough, and now we can do our user account. And we will log in automatically, and if we used it, we could also check use Active Directory. Right, that's everything. So we'll pause the video here and come back once it's finished. And there we go. So installation has completed without any issues and took no time at all on my machine. So we can now reboot and check out our freshly installed Ubuntu MATE 22.04. Right, so here we are in the installed desktop, and there is our new MATE jellyfish wallpaper. And I think because of the color scheme that MATE uses, they've done probably the best of what I've seen so far out of all of the sort of flavors of Ubuntu with the jellyfish wallpaper. Now first up, we do have some updates to go ahead and grab, so let's install those bad boys now. Now while we're waiting for that to update, we can go into the MATE system monitors system information section and see a little bit of information about our machine. So we are indeed using a nice new version of the MATE desktop with kernel version 5.15. Now it doesn't say which sort of display versions we are using, so like Wayland or X11. So if we just go into our terminal here, we can see that we are indeed using X11 as our default session type on my machine. Right, so now that we're all up to date and good to go, I think what we'll do is we'll run through some of the new features from the release notes, and then we'll just start playing around with things. So the first thing I want to check out is the sort of new sort of Yaru theming with the different color variations. However, I have noticed that the welcome screen hasn't popped up yet, so we'll get into that in just a moment. In fact, we'll start with the welcome screen because they also have the new inclusion on the browser ballot for the Firefox ESR. So I'm going to not send telemetry. So it is enabled here, but for some reason it just hasn't popped up. So I am going to disable it now that we're just going to do a first run through. So of course we have our introduction, just getting you a bit used to the sort of machine and the objectives of Ubuntu MATE. And then we have the features here where we can have a little bit of a look at all of the features that are included on our MATE desktop. And now we have getting started. So let's just run through. We know we don't need to do updates and extras as we've already done it, but there will be some additional extras on here that you might want to get or remove if you don't really want to go ahead and use them. And then we also have the additional themes there as well. And then we have community chat room, and then we have their software boutique, which we'll go through and install a few applications from in just a moment. And then we have get involved, shop, donate, and here's we've got the browser selection, the change theme, and the desktop layout. Now, as we all know, with newer versions of Ubuntu, so 22.04, they've transitioned away from the dev version of Firefox and are only going to be supplying it as a snap package, which as you can see there, Firefox is your snap. And then we can also see that the software boutique is a snap, as well as the Ubuntu MATE welcome. So what I'm going to do is go into the browser selection, and as you can see here, we've got quite a few options. So we have Chrome, Brave, Opera, Vivaldi, Edge, Chromium, but then we have Firefox ESR, which is the extended support release, which I am going to go ahead and install. So it'll prompt you for your password, and there we go. So we've got a nice little notification there letting us know that Firefox ESR has now been installed. So if we go into our applications menu and go into Internet, you can see now we're going to have two sort of copies of Firefox, with one being the snap package and one being the ESR. So what we're just going to do is type in Firefox ESR, and we'll just launch it from the terminal so we know that we're clicking on the right one. And for the most part, it will look and behave pretty much exactly the same as the snap there, but if you go into help and about, you can see that we are indeed using the extended support release, which is version 91.9.0. So let's close that off and keep it moving. Okay, so that's the browser ballot selection. Like I said, got a few there that you can go ahead and choose from, but I do like that the ESR is there included and easily installable. Now for theming, let's go into change theme, and here we can see all of the different sort of variations that we have of Yaru. So we have all of these bad boys here. So we've got some nice dark lights and then the different color variations. If we open up our folder, our home folder, with Nemo, of course, being our default file manager, Kaja, sorry, being our default file manager, I was thinking of Budgie. There we go, Kaja version 1.26.0 there. Right, so let's go ahead and test out a swapping of a theme. Let's go for the dark magenta. There we go, looking very nice. And of course, it's giving us the nice sort of magenta, purplish sort of folder icons and accent colors. And all are switched over without any issues whatsoever. Now we're just going to quickly jump over to a different desktop layout, which includes a dock. So plank, and then we're going to make sure that it is actually going to change everything over when we do the sort of changing of the theme. So if we go and close that bad boy right now, go back into the welcome screen and go to desktop layout. Here we can see all of the available desktop layouts that we have, bearing in mind that we no longer have the netbook layout. Now we all know that my favorite layout is indeed the Mutiny layout, but while we're here, let's test out Cupertino as well. I wonder if it's going to change. Oh, we do have a slight theme at the bottom there. I really do like the way the icons look on Ubuntu MATE, and then of course we have the nice full global menu support there as well. Now we're going to go back into the change desktop theme, and now we're going to switch over to a dark theme and just hope that it does swap over the plank every time with a sort of 100% success rate, because we did struggle with that with previous versions. And there we go, so that has gone ahead and changed that without any issues whatsoever, and we can see it's even changing the icon accent colors as well. Perfect. All right, we're going to leave it on just the standard Yaru colors, as it looks a little bit better on YouTube when we do the videos. And of course, your dock should be set to intelligently hide by default. And what I'm going to do now is switch to my favorite desktop layout, which is of course Mutiny, and we'll stick with Mutiny throughout the rest of the video. And that's going to give you a nice 2-panel layout with your sort of Unity-esque panel to the left with your favorited applications. And then we have our top bar here. We should have a global menu for that. We don't appear to. Okay, we won't worry about that for the moment. Perhaps that's just not included by default. Right, let's close this off. And we're just going to do one more test to make sure that the theming is still changing without any issues whatsoever. Bam. Perfect. Much more consistent. Now we've just done a quick reboot so we can run HTOP on a fresh start, see how much RAM we're using on a fresh boot before we make any more changes to our system. And HTOP is installed out of the box. So if we have a quick look here, we can see that we're using just under 750 MB at around about 741, which isn't bad going at all. And then of course, as sort of standard Ubuntu practice, we have the 2 GB swap file just beneath that. Now, if we just spend a minute or two on the actual MATE tweak tool, and of course, now that we're in the Mutiny layout, we have a full screen application launcher. So we're just going to type in tweak and then open up the MATE tweak tool. So of course, we can configure our desktop icons, but if we go down into panel now, we're going to go ahead and enable the HUD. And it should be quite nice in the Unity layout, because that's kind of a Unity sort of workflow. However, the HUD won't open in the same sort of position as it does on Unity. It sort of tends to do it on the application window, if I remember. Just go ahead and enable the HUD, and let's open up an application. Let's go for Kaja, our file manager. Now let's full screen that. Now we should be able to just hit our Alt key like we do on Unity, and then as you can see here, it gives you a load of the options here as well, but you can of course just search for things as well. So if we wanted to open up a new window, we can go ahead and hit enter, and then as you can see with the indicated dots, we now have 2 windows of Kaja open using the HUD. Now of course, on an application like your file manager, it might not be that useful, but if you use a sort of more in-depth application like LibreOffice Writer, which has a load of options that you can go through, and I use it for things like Kden Live, you can see how useful it is. And of course, we now have the newer version of LibreOffice, which is 7.3. Now if we press the Alt, in fact, let's go ahead and just Control X that. Now, if we press the Alt key, so again, we're just going to use a simple sort of paste to show you how that works. Hit paste, and then boom, it's going to go ahead and do that option for you. And with all of the different options that we do have in an application like LibreOffice, it can become very useful just to hit Alt, search for what you're trying to do, hit enter, and you are good to go. Now, let's close this off and go back into it with the MATE tweak tool. And then of course we do have some more panel features here for sort of drop down terminals and keyboard LED. Now in window, of course, we do have some changes to the options here for the window manager. So as you can see here, we have the Marco No Compositor, we have the Marco built-in X preset, and then we have all of the pickums here for Xrender, GLX and Hybrid. And while we're on an empty desktop, let's just do a quick right click and go to change desktop background, and we can show you some of those AI generated wallpapers with the jellyfishes, which are all these bad boys right here. And I do actually really quite like these, especially with the different colors there. But for the rest of the video, we will stick with the standard Ubuntu MATE jellyfish or wallpaper. Now, what we're going to go ahead and do is test out Flatpak support. So we know that we do have Flatpak installed and enabled out of the box. However, we have no Flatpak integration. So we'll go ahead and open up Firefox. This will be the snap. So the first time we load it, it will take a good few seconds. But then after that, you should be good to go until you sort of start a new session. Okay, so we're just going to go straight to flathub.org, or of course you can go to their release notes as well. So we're just going to go for quick setup, click Ubuntu, and then we're going to copy this bad boy right over into our terminal, and that will go ahead and enable the FlatHub repository. So we're just going to quickly grab an app from the popular apps on FlatHub. Let's go ahead and go for Discord, and of course if you want to join the Tireless Tech Discord server, there'll be a link down below or in the pinned comment. So we're just going to install it straight from here. So again, we're going to copy that into our terminal, press Y, and then press Y once more, and that's going to go ahead and grab all the packages. And as you can see there, it's also grabbing the Yaru MATE Lite theme as well, so we should be good to go. I'll pause the video here and then we'll come back once that's finished. Right, so that's now gone ahead and finished installing Discord, so we should be able to get straight into our application launcher. However, sometimes you do need to do a reboot when you've sort of enabled Flatpak, but as it's all installed out of the box, we should be good to go. So let's type in Discord, and boom, there it is, and then we can go ahead and launch that and we are all good to go. Perfect. So let's go ahead and pin that to our dock there, and we'll leave that like so, and then we should, in our sort of indicators up here, get a nice little indicator for Discord. There we go. So that is the light theme. It does appear. Let me just switch over to a dark theme and see if we get any changes there. So let's go ahead and go into our tweak, and we're going to switch over to a different colored theme now. Oh, wrong one. We want to go into the themes in the welcome screen. There we go. We got there in the end. So we're just going to open up the welcome screen to go straight into it with change theme. And now we're just going to switch to a dark. There we go. So we can still see the Discord icon without any issues whatsoever. Okay, cool. Right, let's close that off and close that off. Now we've also gone ahead and installed an app image for good measure. So if we open up Casual, we should just be able to double click this after it's been made executable. And then there we go. We've gone ahead and launched the Kdenlive app image, which they do support officially. So very nice. So that's 2 out of 3. Now we're just going to go ahead and install a snap and make sure that's all working as well, and then we are good to go. Right, let's go ahead and install a snap version of GIMP. So we're going to go snap, install GIMP, type in your password, and then I'll go ahead and grab the snap package for GIMP, and then we'll load that, make sure that's all working, and then we'll check out a couple more things before we start to wrap it up. And there we go, GIMP has been installed without any issues whatsoever, and it does of course work with the tab key for your HUD. I have noticed it's a bit finicky with the HUD for other application formats like app images and Flatpak. So for some it just doesn't seem to want to work, but for all of the native applications and snaps it seems to work absolutely fine out of the box. But for one example, here is the app image of Kdenlive, and yeah, it doesn't seem to want to work with that, so I'm not sure why that is the case. And that does appear to be the same for some Flatpak applications that I have tried out as well. Now, just to finish up, we're going to go through some of the applications, but not all of them. We're mainly just going to be focusing on the new inclusions of this release, which are clocks, maps, and weather. And I also want to test out something with Pluma, because there is a point of them mentioning that does work with the changing to dark and light. So we'll quickly check that as well, and then we'll wrap it up. So we do have a good package selection. You'll find everything you need, like Evolution as your sort of default email client. You also have the GDebi package installer, so a nice little GUI to go ahead and install any sort of .deb packages. Of course, we have the full LibreOffice suite, Software Boutique to manage most of your sort of application, sort of new application installations. And Boutique's really quite cool, so you can search for all of your applications and you can do sort of bulk queue, so you don't have to sort of keep going back. You can just queue a load and then you are good to go. Now, what we want to do is check out their newer additions, which are maps. So let's go into the search box, type in maps. Boom, there we are with maps. And while we've got maps open, I wonder if that's going to work with the quick switching of dark to light themes. And while we do that, we'll also test out Pluma as well. So let's go back onto the welcome screen for now. I keep forgetting how to get straight into the themes, but not to worry. We'll just go straight into change theme from here. Of course, it's appearance preferences. Okay, right, so what we're going to do is just quickly switch over to a dark theme, and boom, yep, snaps are all working with the dark theme switcher as well as Pluma, the text editor. Perfect. Now there's 2 more applications for us to take a look at, which are weather. Boom. So there is our weather application. That has not appeared to follow the correct theming. It doesn't seem to want to. Let's just go back into the appearance settings for a moment. So we're going to go Yaru Bark and then go back to dark. Okay, so this one doesn't seem to want to take too much notice of the application switching for the dark and light themes. Okay, not to worry. And then we have one more, which is our clocks. Now I actually use clocks quite a lot myself because I like to have sort of an eye on different world clocks, which you can do here as well. And then just for a final test of the appearance switching, we'll see if clocks is working as well. So we're going to go to Yaru Dark. and boom. So all of them appear to work apart from our weather application here. Okay, not too much of an issue. Right, I think that is where I'm going to wrap up with my refresh look of Ubuntu MATE, this time featuring 22.04. I think we've covered most of what's in the sort of new features in the release notes, but like I said, anything that I have skipped over, there'll be a link to that in the description below. But all in all, I really like MATE. It's really come into itself lately, and I'm very happy that they've managed to get the sort of theming changing to keep everything nice and consistent and save me having to go into there and sort of manually change it myself or do a quick reboot and all of that crazy stuff. I like the fact that they've gone ahead and fixed a whole load of the bugs, and in fact, throughout our whole time of just looking through here, we haven't run into any weird little bugs or glitches, and that has happened to me on previous versions of Ubuntu MATE, so they've done a good job there. And it's always good to see that they're sort of fixing memory leaks as well. Now, I do want to go ahead and check out Ubuntu Budgie, but at the moment it's having a bit of an issue with my capture card, so we might have to wait for that until I sort of investigate why that is, or if need be, we'll just do it on the same host machine and use a virtual machine, though I hate doing that. But there we go. Thank you for watching. If you've enjoyed this video, please subscribe, and if you've really enjoyed it, you can consider supporting me on Patreon. Join the Discord. There's a link in the description below as well as in the pinned comment. I'll see you on the next one. Bye bye.